So I want to introduce Lorenzo Neal. Lorenzo Neal is one of my favorite football players of all time. So I got to read out some of your cred, okay? So the list came out of potential people, greatest football players of all time this year. It's over 120 people. Lorenzo's name was on it for the first time. So hopefully this will propel him in. I think it will. But Lorenzo Neal was a fullback who played in the NFL for 16 seasons, a 4-time Pro Bowl selection, and 3-time All-Pro. He was also a member of the New York Jets, my favorite team. Do we have any Jets fans here? I'm just asking. Any? Of course, me, of course. Wait, one? You're a wonderful person. He played for the Tampa Bay Bucks, the Tennessee Titans. He was part of the Music City Miracle. Cincinnati Bengals, San Diego Chargers. Any Chargers fans? And my wife. Baltimore Ravens and Oakland Raiders. Any Raiders fans here? No, this is a Niner crowd. Bubba will be here later. Considered one of the best blocking fullbacks in NFL history, Neal blocked for a 1,000-plus yard running back in 11 straight seasons from 1997 to 2007. He's famous for blocking for Hall of Famer LaDainian Tomlinson. He's now a co-host on the morning show Mornings with Joe and Dibbs on San Francisco radio station 95.7 The Game. I listen to him every morning. He's a great man. Lorenzo, come on up.
Thanks, brother. You're the best. Appreciate it. Mike's the best. Let's give him another hand. This guy is absolutely, simply amazing. I just can't say enough, talking to Mike and just seeing what he's been able to do. And it's pretty just amazing to see how a dream or a thought becomes a reality. So it's awesome what you're doing. I'm proud and happy to be able to be a part of the Happiness Hall of Fame. I was, I work for 95.7 The Game. It's great. We do radio every morning, get up at 3 a.m., get to work at 4. 10 o'clock, I'm ready to go home. You got to bring happiness to people. And sometimes, even when you're not happy, you got to go ahead and portray that. I was at church a couple weeks back, and there was a story that the minister was talking about. And the story went, there was a woman in church that was just a great singer, that every time she came to church, she sung, everyone would stand up, and people would cry because she was just an amazing singer. She wasn't married. She was, in her 30s and late 30s, and everyone wondering why this lady wasn't married. A gentleman came to the church. He heard her sing. They started talking. He just, fell in love with this lady. And they began to court. They were doing it the old-fashioned way, no hanky-panky. They were just good people. And the story says he just loved this lady. And so, the night they got married, they wanted to make sure that the marriage was going to be great. And this lady was just an amazing singer. The story goes that, they got to the house and, they carried over the threshold, and they got to the house. She went in the bathroom and she took off her wig. And then, realized, she didn't have not much hair, and took off the makeup and saw kind of the face was kind of a little butterface. And he was like, oh, okay. He said, that's not bad. And then the last thing he did, I guess, I heard that, she sat on the side of the bed, and he wondered why she had a little limp, and she took off her, one of her prosthetic legs, and she said, is everything okay? He said, just sing, woman, just sing. And so it was just the fact that he still chose to be happy. He still chose in that moment that when he knew that this woman wasn't the woman that he assumed because she could sing so beautiful, he fell in love with the woman because they didn't do the different things that a lot of people do, before in the courtship. But he fell in love with her, the person. So he chose still to be happy. He chose still to say, you know what? Because of my love, I'm not going anywhere. Because of my love and the choices that I make, no matter what situation I'm in, that's what love's about. And that's what it's about. It's about choosing to be happy. It's about choosing to love, because love is definitely a choice. For me, I come from a small town, Lemoore, California. Small town. Growing up, we didn't have a stoplight growing up. No McDonald's, and just a little country boy. And my parents came from Fort Worth, Texas. My grandfather, Oliver and Viola, they came on the back of a truck. Believe it or not, she had 5 boys and 1 girl, one daughter, Aunt Bernice. And there was a guy that would drive them from Texas, drive everyone out to California, and they were sharecroppers. My parents, my father and his 5 brothers, they were in the fields, they chopped cotton, they picked cotton. They did all these things. That was just a part of the culture growing up. And so my dad was telling us the different stories about where he'd come from and his life and the experiences that he had between his mom and grandparents, my grandparents, that Oliver and Viola, and great people. And they told us these different stories of what it was like. So in those times, we got to see what happiness, a true family, my uncles and my grandparents, all of them, they lived a happy life because of the fact they didn't care what they didn't have. They knew that they had to stick together because it was about family. It was about serving one another. And I know that my grandparents, neither one of them are here now, but just the stories and the things that I heard, it kind of formed who I was and who I became as a man, as a pro athlete, and all the different things that I was able to achieve. And it started by having a base. And it started with my grandparents, started with my father and my mother. And I remember, getting up in the morning. My dad, he would, wake me up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I had to slop hogs and feed cows and do all these things every single day before school. This is every day, 7 days a week. And then on Friday nights, I'd go run for 150 yards. I'd have 16 tackles a game. I was California Athlete of the Year. My dad would say, rise and shine. Those pigs don't care how many yards you ran for last night, boy. Let's go do some work. So these are some of the things that I was like, I got to be happy. And we knew what it was about. I knew what hard work was about. I knew that my dad told me, he said, hard work pays off. He always would tell me, son, no matter what, the will to win means nothing without the will to prepare. And I remember, growing up, and my grandmother, it was my sophomore year in high school, and I wanted a car, and I know she was, as a freshman, I was playing varsity, I was wrestling varsity, I went to the state, won the Valley as a true freshman. So just a lot of things. I was very gifted, very blessed, because, I was picking up those pigs and cows every day. So I was just country strong, as they like to say. And I remember my grandmother, she said, come here, I need to talk to you. Because, grandparents, she's an older lady. Grandma said, I think you're starting to smell your must. I'm like, what does that mean, Grandma? She said, come on, I'll talk to you about it. So anyway, she was like, okay, what is Grandma going to say? Because I wanted a car. I was disappointed. I didn't have a car. A sophomore, wanted a car. And she had an old beat-up station wagon. And I said, oh, God, I hope she don't give me this car. She said, don't worry, son. I'm not giving you the car. Just sit down. I'm going to talk to you. And she told me about a story that I remember like yesterday. And she talked about how she was a supervisor, and she was chopping cotton and doing the stuff that she did growing up, chopping cotton, and she was pregnant with one of my Uncle Joe. My Uncle Joe is one of my father's brother, and she was a supervisor, so she was over 20-some people in the field, so she would make sure that they had their sacks and all the stuff, that she would make sure they weighed it and do all those things. And I remember she was telling me about how she was pregnant with my Uncle Joe, and on Wednesday night, she went to work on Wednesday, and that night, she went into labor with my Uncle Joe. She had my Uncle Joe, and on Friday, she went back to work to pick cotton. And I'm like, Grandma, why'd you do that? Because I just wanted to know what was she thinking. And she said, son, you know what? Never take a vacation when the boss is around. I said, why not, Grandma? She said, they'll realize how much they don't need you. And believe it or not, though, at that time, I didn't really get it. I didn't really know what she meant. But I tell you, after 17 years of playing in the NFL, seeing so many guys go to training camp and have the opportunity that was bigger, that was faster, that was stronger than me, only played for a year or 2 years. Why? Because they take a vacation when the boss is around. Why? Because they chose not to work. They didn't take advantage of the opportunity that was given to them. I was so blessed because I knew what it was like to, to have you see my little finger, dislocated finger, or broken legs or broken fingers, and still would go out there and play because I knew the hard work would pay off. I knew if I didn't do it, someone else was waiting to take my job. And I would go out there, and I would always be out there, and I'd go to work no matter how I was feeling, no matter how many leave or what I had to take. I would go out there and I would smile. I would go out there and I would work. I'd go out there and still run into guys because I knew that the opportunity was never lost. It was going to be given to someone else. I chose those things. I chose to take this job. And playing in the National Football, it was a blessing. It was a privilege. I like to tell people I was a grown man playing a kid's game, getting a king's ransom. And it was really awesome. It really was. and played for all these different teams. And I remember, now, I have, twin daughters and have a son. And I remember playing in Tennessee. And my son, he was always, wanting to play baseball. And he was, I remember the day I was paying some bills in the South. You guys know how hot it gets. It gets very hot. And I was paying some bills. And he said, Dad, because I always told him, I said, son, whatever you want, I will work with you. If you want to be the best, you got to put it in there. You got to put in the time. You got to put in the effort. And you got to do those things to be great. And he wanted to play baseball. And now he's at the University of Purdue. He's not playing baseball. He's playing, he plays football. He's 6, and I'm 5'10". His mom's 5'4". And he's 6'3", 335 pounds. And I said, okay, guys, it ain't the milkman, so don't stop laughing, okay? Stop. Don't go there. Don't go there. I shrunk all the hits I've taken. But so I remember, he's 8 years old, and he says, Dad, I want to play baseball. And I said, okay, son, you know the game. I said, I'm paying bills. And I said, I'm going to come out in a little bit. I said, so go play the game that I taught you. And I was hot. I didn't really want to go out there, tell you the truth. But I said, okay, well, go play the game I taught you. You guys probably played it growing up. You throw the ball up in there and you just hit it yourself. You just play by yourself, hit it against the wall, whatever, and just play by yourself. And he said, okay. So he's walking out of the house and he said, Dad, I want to be better than, Mark McGuire. I want to be better than Sammy Sosa. And he said, be better than Barry Bonds. I said, son, don't say Barry Bonds right now. Something's going on in stereo there. But anyway, I don't want to talk about that. And I remember, so he walks outside and he's throwing the ball up and looking out the window. I'm watching, he throws out the ball and whoosh, just keeps whipping. Throw up the ball and it just keeps whipping. I'm watching about 5 minutes. He's 5, 6 years old. He's throwing the ball up. He just keeps on whipping. He can't hit it. And right when he's getting ready to, stop and come in, I'm watching. So I walk like I'm coming outside. Hey, son, you ready? He's like, oh, no, Dad, I'm done. I said, I already knew how I did. I said, son, how'd you do? He said, Dad, I didn't hit the ball that well, but at least I pitched a no-hitter. So sometimes in life, we're going to be all alone. Sometimes in life, we're going to have to take negatives and turn it into a positive. Sometimes, you know what, you're going to have to choose when you're up against the wall and it seems like all hope is gone and it's just you and you think it's nobody else. There's somebody else. And that somebody, for me, I choose to believe in a higher power, and that's Christ. But you always have to understand that you have to push yourself, and you have to, no matter what the situation may be, no matter what you're going through, it's about smiling, because we have so much bandwidth in our mind. And I choose not to be around necessarily negative thoughts, negative people, because if you do that, you keep carrying it. You have a certain amount of time. Someone told me, they said they had 1 minute. There's 60 seconds in a minute. When it's gone, it's gone. So you might as well use it. Use it for what? It's a difference between a thermostat and a thermometer. See, a thermometer, a thermostat, it regulates temperature. A thermometer, it measures temperature. You choose to be that thermostat. Don't let anyone dictate. Don't let anyone dictate who you are. Don't let anyone dictate your happiness. Happiness is a choice. Life is a choice. We have to stand up and be able to hold people accountable, because too many people, they go around and I call them dream killers. How many people that that tell you can't do that? You won't be able to do that. This is why you can't do that. And you see these negative people. Why? Why? Because they're afraid to fail. Why? Because they're afraid to step out of their comfort zone. They're negative people that you see around. Why choose? You can always. My dad said you can't stop a bird from flying over your head. You can stop them from landing on your head. You have to understand you can only handle so much. And if you continue to take in all those negative and all those thoughts, and you continue to do that, you'll become a part of the problem as well. That also, my dad was a wise man. He also told me, he said, if you hang out with 4 people that make $1, pretty soon there'll be 5. Because you got to make sure the people you hang out and the company you keep, it will sometimes have a negative or a positive effect on you. Even with this, there's a guy that I know, very, very close guy. I'm really close to this guy, and and he lost his father on June 3rd, 2 years ago, and just a great man. His father was everything to him. And his father made him the executor of the different things of his will. And he began to be criticized by his family and all the things that were going on around him. And people were talking about this guy all the time. This guy, I know, he just kept on moving. This guy, I know, also had a daughter that was suffering from Darvettes. Was having 15 to 30 seizures a month. In and out of the hospital every day, from seeing specialists to trying to do so many different things. Darvettes doing 7 or 8, taking 10 to 12 meds a day. No, guy, that just all these different things that, speech therapists, all the different things that had to happen to this guy and his family, and didn't know if he was his daughter was going to probably have to be with him for the rest of his life. This guy just keeps on moving. No matter what, and all of a sudden people are saying, man, are you okay? And the daughter, all the times going to the doctor, have to leave work, all the different things because, boom, having a seizure. The wife and everyone else is afraid, have to call 911 because the kid is just going through so many different things. You know what? That guy is me. Those things happen to me, but you know what? I keep smiling. Those things happen to me and I keep on smiling. I keep loving on my daughter. I don't let a setback, it's nothing but a setup for a comeback. I don't let a problem or something dictate the way that I'm going to enjoy my life. My daughter, I have faith that she's going to be healed. I have faith that she's going to stop with the seizures. But at the meantime, I'm still going to smile. I'm still going to hold my head up because it takes that. It takes that because people will see certain things, who you are, how you handle certain situations, and they'll be able to grab strength from you. So how are you going to be judged? How are you going to live your life? How are you going to make sure that you dictate your situation? Be that thermostat, not that thermometer. Regulate temperature. Don't be someone that just can measure, that you have to make sure that everyone is always telling you something to get you going. You be a self-starter. That's what life's about. Leave you with this. I was telling you guys earlier, I was talking about dream killers. There are so many people, I know we're older, some of you are younger. You can go and you talk to so many of your friends. You can say, man, I want to grow up. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a wealth manager. I want to write books. I want to do all these things. Got it. And you go through life, I always talk about you go through life from 18 to 25. You're out of school, 25 to 30. You're trying to find your profession. Usually from 30 to 40 is your money-making years. You think about buying a house, invest, and then 40 to 50. Think about that second investment, whether it's property, whether you're investing in something else. And then you go through that. That's your part of life. But so many times we go through and say, man, I wanted to be this. I wanted to do that. I wanted to be, whatever it may be. How many, imagine this, 15, 20, 30 years, 100 years from now, close your eyes and imagine you're on your deathbed and you take that last breath. How many dreams are going to die with you? How many things that you could have been, whether it's a doctor, whether it's a lawyer, whether it's writing a book, how many dreams are going to die with you? Man, don't let anyone stop you from dreaming. Don't let dream killers stop your dreams. Man, you got to embrace life and choose to be happy. Happiness is a choice. And if you do that and you continue to do that, no matter how many times you fail, no matter how many times you succeed, if you continue to make sure you control your environment, you'll be very, very successful in life. Thank you so much. God bless you all.